All right, so welcome to this screencast. We're continuing with our 5 foundations of economics here in chapter 1 of the textbook. And this screencast is going to be about something called marginal thinking. And I often think that this is one of the things that economics gets right about analyzing individual decision making that's often overlooked even by some of our fellow social scientists. And we'll get to some of the details in a moment, but the idea of marginal thinking is that when people make decisions, they are already at a certain point. And so they're deciding whether they want to do one more or one less of something. They're usually not at the point of deciding over my lifetime, what is the total I want? Or over the next year even, what is the total I want? So it's this marginal thinking. So we'll flesh it out here in the screencast. So economic thinking systematically evaluates individuals' different courses of action. So it requires a purposeful evaluation of the different opportunities that a person has and for them to make the best decision. All right. So this involves what we are going to call marginal thinking. All right. So you evaluate whether the benefit of one more unit outweighs the cost of one more unit. All right. So whatever that unit is, it's at that margin meaning just the edge of something, like the margin of your paper is the edge, toward the edge of your paper. At that margin is where you decide. So you're eating pizza and you're deciding, do I want to eat one more slice of pizza or do I not want to eat one more slice of pizza? Does the benefit to me of eating that slice outweigh the cost to me of eating that slice? Does one more hour of studying is that what I want to do? Does the benefit of that outweigh the cost of that? And remember, cost here is not just what you pay for the pizza. It's what you give up instead of eating that slice of pizza. What was the next best thing you could have eaten or the next best thing you could have done with that time? Same way with studying. The opportunity cost of studying another hour is, well, what would you have been doing instead? So when we evaluate at the margin, we include both explicit costs, what you pay for something, and those opportunity costs, the next best thing that you give up in order to consume that good or to have that extra hour of studying. All right. So here's a quick example. So suppose you're vacuuming your living room. Are you the kind of person who's going to move your couch and china cabinet and vacuum underneath the couch and china cabinet? Or are you the kind of person who just vacuums around the couch and china cabinet? Well, what's the marginal benefit? Well, it's a very small amount of carpet that would be cleaned by actually doing all that work to move the china cabinet or move the couch or whatever it is, right? You're only going to get a little bit more clean, all right? And the cost is now, it's a lot more time and effort to actually finish vacuuming the room, all right? So cost-benefit analysis at the margin would say, does the action of moving the furniture, you would do that only if, for you, the benefit of making sure that that little bit was clean outweighs the cost of moving everything around. And I'm sure for some of you, it would be true. You would want that to be clean. You would want to know that the entire room was clean. That cost of moving the couch or moving the china cabinet would be, you would be willing to incur that cost to get that extra bit of carpet clean. The marginal benefit would be higher than the marginal cost. Again, marginal benefit just means what is the benefit of doing that next thing. Marginal cost is what is the cost of doing that next thing. All right. There are others of you, probably a lot of you who are watching the screencast, who would say, no, for me, the marginal cost of moving that china cabinet or moving that couch is definitely more than any marginal benefit I would get from knowing that was clean. But again, that's up to you. We're going to talk about this later, but in economics, we often say people have subjective values for things. And so I can't tell you what your value is for having that bit of carpet clean underneath the china cabinet. That's up to you. So in many ways, individual decision making is based on individual subjective value, subjective estimation of the cost and the benefits, the marginal cost and the marginal benefits. All right. So let's take another example of this. And this is one you guys have probably wrestled with recently or wrestle with even now. and it gets a lot of play in the news, and it is going to college worth it? All right, so we're going to examine college education using opportunity cost and marginal thinking. So we often hear people say things like, well, college graduates earn $1 million more in their lifetime than high school grads. Everyone should go to college. College will benefit everyone. We expect all our nation's children to go to college. We hear a lot of that. We've also recently heard, especially here in Silicon Valley, that college is a huge waste of time. It's a waste of money. No one should do it. It's an awful deal. It's a big ripoff. Well, again, part of this is going to depend on your own valuation of these things. But let's kind of look at a generic case of looking at this in terms of cost, marginal cost and marginal benefit. So here, I'm going to put the yearly earnings of first. I'm going to put in a person who doesn't go to college. So we're going to assume that you're making this decision at age 18. You're trying to decide, do you want to go to college or not? It's not true of everyone, but we could modify this for individual cases, but this is a good kind of generic case. And now I'm going to put in the yearly earnings of someone who does go to college. All right. Now, here for this particular person, going to college looks like once they're out of college, they make more money. Now, that's also not true for everyone. Again, this is just a given person. So assume for this person that this is what their wages would have looked like had they not gone to college through their whole life. And this is a person who, this is what their wages would have looked like if they had gone to college. All right. So let's break this down into some of the terms that we've already been using. All right. So this, again, the green line is the college person, and the red line is the person who only has a high school degree. All right. So this X here, this is the explicit cost of going to college. You are paying, right? You have negative yearly earnings because you are paying to go to college. All right. So that's what X is. Y represents the opportunity cost of going to college. If you go to college, what you give up, the next best thing is your earnings if you only had a high school degree. So that's the next best option. So that is your opportunity cost of going to college, especially in this region here, right? So this is your explicit cost of going to college, right? Each year you're paying something. But then this is your opportunity cost. This is the earnings that you give up each year, totaled over those 4 years. This is what you've given up. So that's the opportunity cost. All right. So what you would want to know is then what about this area here? All right. So this area is the premium for going to college, Z, all right? It is the extra earnings you earn each year because you have a college degree, all right? So X again here is the direct cost of college. The Y region that I did in green is the opportunity cost of not working while in college, and Z here is that premium for going to college, all right? It's the college premium. So what an individual would have to ask themselves is, well, in terms of X, Y, and Z, you should go to college if Z is bigger than X plus Y. So is that college premium that you're going to earn once you get out worth both the explicit cost, X, and the opportunity cost, this area, Y? Now, most people think about the cost X, right? And think about, well, I have to pay to go to college, and then I will hopefully make a premium more than I would have if I just had a high school degree. What economists always consider, and not everyone takes this into account, is that, well, you also didn't work. And if you did work, you probably didn't start your career. You weren't working a full-time job in the same career. So you've given up this opportunity cost in order to go to college. So Z, this area, needs to be bigger than X plus Y. And that's going to be different for different people, all right? So take, for example, let me clean the screen here. Take, for example, a guy like Bill Gates, right? Well, Bill Gates, you know, the direct cost of going to college for him probably wasn't all that much. Back then, college wasn't all that expensive compared to now. But think about what his opportunity cost was. His opportunity cost was huge, right? He was giving up a ton of money if he had stayed in college, because starting Microsoft when he did turned out to have huge, huge dividends. So for him, there might not have been much of a premium, right? Because his wages, if he had not gone to college versus gone to college, would be very small. So again, that area Z would have been small, and that area Y in the graph before would have been really big, all right? So it depends on your opportunity cost, it depends on the explicit cost, and it depends on what the wage premium will be given whatever degree and career that you eventually have, all right? So the answer to the question is, should everybody always go to college, is no, right? Economists don't usually think that those kind of blanket statements usually work, because people have different opportunity costs, they have different valuations of things, so it's just hard to make a blanket statement. The other things that we didn't consider in that last graph are there are other benefits of having a job that requires a college degree that is independent or not necessarily directly related to how much money you make. So many jobs where you have a college degree, you're less likely to get laid off from those sorts of jobs. And this is true statistically, and it has been for a very long time, that people who have college degrees are far less likely to end up unemployed during a downturn. You also usually get better hours on the whole, and you have better working conditions. So you still may make less if you have a college degree, but there's all these other things that you would need to take into account, the working conditions and things like that. The other thing we didn't take into account is, well, education has positive benefits, positive externalities, we say, to others, not just your own family, but also to society as a whole. So we're going to get to that view of whether government should be subsidizing education and things like that in a later screencast. So the last thing I want to leave you with here is some marginal thinking, and this is an economist who is going to explain marginal thinking using Monty Python in the search for the Holy Grail. So it's a good little video for us to end on, and make sure you watch it. Thanks.